Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game while criticizing current players. I'm one of your three hosts, Ryan Stacy, and I'm a little bit loopy tonight, which I'll explain in a second. But we were talking about episode 9, Welcome to the Party of season 48, and I'm joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Derek Kubicek and Josh Wesser. How you guys doing?
I mean, I'm doing all right. I can confirm that Ryan is a little bit jittery tonight, but I'm a little bit jittery in a less health kind of way after watching this episode of Survivor. Not a lot of game twists or mechanics or advantages really muddying the waters. It was really fun watching the players play. And this is the only time this season where I have stood up off the couch and just been bewildered and just fascinated about what I thought was going to happen next. And it happened twice tonight. So I'm excited to talk about I'm excited to talk about the ramifications of what went down.
Yeah, I had a good time because this seemed like it was a very pivotal moment of the season. And just, okay, what are we doing here? Are we taking this alliance all the way and really going to do it? Or are we, going to play Survivor? So it was really exciting to see what was going to happen. I was surprised with the result, which was, doesn't happen all the time. So that was good to see. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
I kind of called my shot on this episode, so I wasn't surprised, but I was I had a good time. This felt like, remember Spy versus Spy? Do you guys remember that? I think it was a comic strip and they made like cartoons of it. Okay, well, people out there will know what I'm talking about. With everything going on between Kyle and David, it felt a lot like Spy versus Spy. So this was fun. It was fun watching these two play against each other. So I enjoyed the episode. Okay, so I should get this out of the way. This episode's quality might be different than other episodes because I am at 42 hours without sleep at this point. I currently am going through a bout of insomnia due to a new medication I'm on, which is insane. I've never done this before, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of this. So I've been up literally not a single ounce of sleep for 42 hours now. And yeah, I'm not enjoying that. Survivor was great, but I'm not enjoying this feeling.
And those of you who heard me giggle, I'm only giggling because if you knew how much I knew that Ryan loved sleep, you would know that this hits him at his soul.
Yep. That's very true.
And as a stupid teenager, I once decided to see how long I could stay awake. I made it 54 hours before I started to have literal hallucinations. So Ryan, I really hope you managed to get some shut-eye before the shapes appear.
Yeah, me too.
It sounds like me in college procrastinating my finals and then just like, all right, well, no choice now but just to keep on going.
I think the worst part for me is though, like, there isn't a good reason for it. Like, okay, you stay up all night to watch like a sports game. That's like the Wild game was on at like 10 o'clock the other night.
I was up until 1.
You stay up and watch it if you want, or like to cram for a final. Okay, fine, that's great. There is no reason for me not to sleep except my brain won't let me, and it's not fair. It's not right. I love sleeping.
Well, and the worst part, I'm guessing, is you're laying there and you can't get out of the spin cycle of I should be sleeping, and then it's been 4 hours of you only having that thought.
Yep. Brutal. So anyway, that's where I'm at tonight. So I am definitely going to be a little all over the place. I will do my best with my notes. But yes, Derek and Josh may have to help herd me to the finish line here.
Yeah, we might be serving as the guidepost today. We'll see.
We will see. But yeah, if I don't know if I get my words mixed up at all, and if you notice me saying any like mistakes or nitpicks tonight, like I feel like I'm usually pretty good at not having those. I have them. I definitely have them, but I feel like I'm usually pretty good. I'm probably gonna have more than usual tonight. You don't need to comment about it. I will know when I hear it back in the edit. So thank you.
Or comment about it, because Ryan should leave it all in the edit, because this is just it's a chapter in our lives. Yep. So thank you for being along with us and Ryan for the ride.
All right, should we get into this episode?
Yes.
Spoiler alerts in 3, 2, 1. As Shaheen says, let's party.
I loved that confessional, by the way. That was such a good confessional.
Great night for Shaheen tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, we're losing David tonight, which...
Big vote.
Josh and I were pretty convinced that it was going to be Mitch going in. We will go ahead and bury the lead on whether or not the Castaway Consultants as a whole think this is a good or a bad move. But I was surprised that Mitch did not go here. So, I mean, I don't know. Ryan, you said you called your shot. Did you call it even last week?
I had who's going next. I had David last week.
Which I also had David last week, but just during the episode, in our little group chat, I thought that it was going to end up being Mitch, but that was just right before Tribal Council.
And I was David the whole way through. I was convinced David was going in this episode.
And one other thing that I wanted to kind of address at the top of the podcast here, this is what's just going on, I guess, in the Survivor fan world meta right now, because this is going to be relevant, and you're going to pick up on hints and tones of this as we continue to talk about this episode and probably future episodes. There's been a lot of negativity swirling around the idea of this strong person alliance, and everyone who is absolutely convinced that if Eva, Joe, or David prior to tonight, or Kyle or Shaheen win this season, that it's an utter failure of a season. And I can appreciate everyone having their own lens into what they would like to see happen in the game, but I don't think using the words like should or it would make it bad is necessarily fair for whoever does end up coming out on top, if it is one of the 4 remaining of the 5 that I mentioned, or 3 remaining of the 4 that I mentioned. We've seen it plenty of times, and I said it before with a Black Widow Brigade. We saw it, with the family, an infiltrator, obviously one, when we're talking about the family. It doesn't matter what brings you together and gets you to the end. It's a valid way to do it. And so all of the negativity that is surrounding these particular groups of players, I don't see it. I think that for the most part, these are all wonderful people outside of the game, and they got dropped in a season where this just made sense for them. So if you're one of those people who find that negativity swirling around in your mind, your opinion is valid. You can have it. I just take it easy on people a little bit and try to enjoy the fact that we get to see an outside of the box season of Survivor like this one. That's my soapbox for the night before we get into the episode proper.
As long as an alliance isn't built on, hating another person or group of people, it's fine by me. Do whatever you need.
Fair caveat.
With the caveat to that caveat being, if their personality sucks, you can build an alliance around hating them. But let's not build alliances around like
identity,
racism, and sexism and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's why I say like within reason. And I would hope that those issues would be curbed in casting at this point.
Yes,
you'd think if there's always room for surprise. But I mean, physical strength and trying to play a more honest and upfront game. Yeah, that's going to stink for the people who like to play under the radar and be sneaky, tricksy, and false. But for a certain cohort of people, this is exactly what they would want to see. And that's okay, too.
And I've always been of the opinion I would like Survivor randomly pick 18 people from wherever. Nowadays it's America and Canada. But honestly, like, as long as everyone can speak the same language and we can all play together, 18 random people, put them on an island, see what happens. And if we do it that way, sometimes you're going to get a season like this, where it's a bunch of strong, loyal people. And will it stick together? Well, obviously not tonight. But it's interesting, and that's why Survivor's fun, is because different people want to play different ways. Some are right, some are wrong, but it's different, and it's usually fun.
Yeah, later on in the episode, we get Camilla saying, I'm having to play a different game than I would have had to if, I had weird, nerdy, however she phrased it, like a completely different cast. Would I prefer it to be the other way because maybe I'd relate with those people? Sure. But I need this. That's not what I'm on. I'm on this season of Survivor, and I need to adapt and be able to play with this group of people.
Oh, I think Camilla would have done great with the weirdos on 44, 46, and 47. And I say that endearingly because I'm a weirdo too. So hopefully, like Camilla, big fan of the podcast, you understand what I'm getting at here. Obviously, you aired that at Tribal Council yourself, but yeah, you just got to play the hand you're dealt. And as the audience, we just kind of have to enjoy and for our part, analyze what happens. So
should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. So we get back to camp, and David is going to admit to Camilla that he was putting her name out there. And she's done with David. She wants nothing to do with this bozo anymore. But David is very skeptical of Kyle and Camilla. He doesn't trust them. He thinks they're working together. And that's going to be like this whole episode is David thinks something. People are working together against him, and he's paranoid about it. But that doesn't mean he's wrong. He's 100% right the whole time. That's the beauty of this episode is he is right. He's just not presenting it very well.
I love how right he is, too. And it starts like you get just like the little hints of it last episode. Like, is Kyle keeping Camilla around for, some weird other personal interest reason? Maybe. And then he just goes all in basically this episode. And I love that he's right. And it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that people aren't out to get you. I think a more useful question for someone like David, and even Shaheen to a lesser extent in this moment, is, do I deserve it? Is the way that I'm playing this game predisposing people like Kyle and Shaheen and Camilla to want to make a move against me? And the answer is yes.
Yes, very much yes.
Yes. So, he's right. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where if you keep playing the game the way you're playing it, of course they're going to keep conspiring against you. But he wants to lean into this strong person alliance so much that it forces him to push others away. Shaheen said it best. He pushed too hard and people pull away. And that's what's happening.
So we have a strong 6 meeting to discuss who's going next. Mary and David both want Camilla still. But Kyle's like, you know what? I've been riding the middle this whole game. I think it's time to be done with this. I don't know if I'll be able to anymore. So he is going to start plotting with Shaheen against David and Mary. And basically a lot of this episode is Kyle and Shaheen planting seeds against David, talking to people and trying to get people to vote against David and Mary eventually. But that is kind of the arc of the episode. And David's just one step behind them. I think they're up to something. They were up to something. They've been here already being up to something. They've already they built the trap already, and you wandered into it. And I think there's a trap here. Yep, there was.
They kind of built the trap around him, and then he looked up wait, were there walls here before? The frog in boiling water.
But David and Mary, on the other hand, they're worried, and they want to bring in Eva. And Eva's like, you guys are just paranoid, basically. Again, just because they're paranoid doesn't mean they're wrong.
They could be.
So Kyle and David, they kind of try to do damage control about the whole Camilla vote and the pushback in the last episode. And it's very, very surface level. Yeah, we're good. Promise. Definitely won't try and get you in just a few seconds. Yeah, they're not actually good.
Pay no attention. It's all fine.
Yeah, I think this whole sequence, right, the I'm assuming morning after tribal council occurred, the most telling part was seeing, now it's a core 6. We had talked about, is it going to be a 7? Is it going to be a 6? Is it actually just a 5? How many people are invited in here? And now we for sure see that David and Mary are this strong duo, and it's turning Mary into a bit of a target along with, and that's in a subgroup, but Camilla's kind of the surface level to sort of test Kyle again, and that's what leads Kyle and David to be confrontational, because it's no, it's going to be Mary, no, it's going to be Camilla. Well, maybe it's going to be somebody different altogether. So it's just the seeds of chaos doing their magic.
Yeah, this is going to happen when you're at final 10 now, final 9. There's not a lot of room to hide, and for people who are good game players, which a lot of these people are, you need to start being able to navigate your way into a final 3 and into a final 3 that you can win. So there's, everyone's going to start actually having an agenda here.
And the last thing I wanted to bring up, we've seen Kyle and Camilla scheme against Shaheen up to this point. Oh, he's got an idol. Oh, he's thinking about doing this to you. But now we see Kyle and Camilla with Shaheen.
Mm-hmm.
So is it part of their story that they are doing a bit of enemy of the state from within, or just subterfuge?
I think they got lumped with him, and well, we might as well work with him if we're getting lumped with him.
I think this goes back to the Vula swap tribe, when it was the 4 of them and now plus Eva. Especially how this vote went down, I think it's just going to be that 5 running the show from here on out the rest of the game. So I think that it's more so just they really bought into that grouping, and that's just the one that they're taking the most seriously.
Where this gets interesting, and this will stay relevant even after this episode, this all hinges on what Kyle wants to do, because there's no way Camilla wants to go to the end with Joe, Eva, Shaheen, and Kyle.
I think we'll get to that, a little bit later.
So if that is the 5, that is going to be against Camilla's wishes, but she might not have a choice.
She's in survival mode right now.
Yes.
So during the night, Eva's going to have to sneak out of camp, because in the last episode, she had a clue to an advantage where she has to sneak out of camp in the middle of the night. And last week, we said this would be no problem. No one's ever spotted anyone leaving camp. And lo and behold, Shaheen spots Eva leaving camp. And he's going to wake up Joe and tell him, but it ends up not mattering.
I love how freezing cold of a take it was immediately. We all said it, just like, it's fine. Like, this is the easiest thing ever. Just nope. I don't even. When was the last time this happened where someone actually got caught in the middle of the night? I don't think it has ever happened like that.
Not like this. No.
The only other thing worth mentioning, and this is another one of those Survivor meta things that's gone out there in the universe this week, especially with the hate around the Strong Person Alliance. People were claiming that production planted the advantage in Eva's reward so that she would get it because they want to push her as being more powerful. But here's the thing. The advantage says tomorrow night you're going to go to the fire and do this. They need to have all of this planned with the gaming committee before they start the season. The only way you guarantee that that person is there to try and get the reward is if it was the winner of the challenge. So yes, they had assigned seats, and yes, it was going to go to Eva. But if Joe wins the challenge, it goes to Joe.
Yep.
So I just want everyone to just like take a blue pill on this right now, because there's nothing to see here. Actually, it's not even like a blue pill, red pill thing.
A chill pill.
Everyone just relax.
Take a chill pill.
This would be opening themselves up to a massive lawsuit.
Yeah, that photo blew up online of like the name tags and everyone's sitting there and everyone's basically just like, oh, this is rigged for Eva.
No, it's because she won immunity, guys.
Yes.
Chill. Everyone chill.
And the clue, I believe, says because of your efforts in today's immunity. It wasn't a group win, it was individual.
And we have seen this happen before. People can win idle clues for winning immunity. This is not a new thing. Usually, Jeff just hands it to him, too.
And by the way, this is us. We aren't usually the people sticking up for Survivor production.
Yeah.
I just want people to generally chill out.
Be at peace.
Not everything's a conspiracy.
Yes.
Some things are.
Some things are, but not this. Okay, so Eva's going to get out there to Advantage Place, Advantage Beach, and she gets an extra vote. She can gamble it to try and win safety without power, but if she loses her extra vote. She goes for it. What do you guys think? Right move to go for the safety without power?
Yes, I think so. I think that, while the extra vote is important, and I don't remember if they said how long it's good for, but right now in the majority, I think that that's definitely something that doesn't have as much power as what you would want compared to a safety without power, especially, a couple of votes from now. It's probably going to come around to where Eva might need to make herself safe, especially if she's used her idol or wants to save her idol for another tribal. And I guess the bigger question to me might be the next stage.
Okay.
I think that this is the right move. Right now for Eva, she thinks she has an alliance of 6. You make yourself more valuable almost with the threat of withholding your vote than having a potential extra one. So if you feel like you're getting bad vibes from your alliance, you can just dip. Up and out. You don't even need to guess with an idol. You can just leave, and it is no skin off your nose, and you still have the idol. To me, an extra vote, that might actually be a target on your back, and also at these numbers, it's getting more difficult to play it correctly given the size of your core alliance and not knowing quite where it's going to fracture yet. 50-50 gamble to power it up to essentially an idol? Yeah, 100%.
Now, I agree, but then she gets another risk if she wants. She can gamble the safety of that power, 33% chance of getting an idol, good to the final 5, and the safety of that power is only good to the final 7. 67% chance of losing the safety of that power and getting nothing. She's going to walk away. She's just going to keep the safety without power and walk away. What do you guys think?
Keep safety without power.
My gut says keep safety without power. The one big thing that's keeping me from being 100% just on board with that is the timing. Final 7 is anytime in the next 3 votes. While she might be in doubt with her place, in a couple of votes, I don't know how I feel about that compared to potentially having an idol at the final 5, along with her current one. I'm going to stick with having just the safety without power, because then, you could use it at 7 and then use your idol at 5, let's just say, at the very best. But, I think the other big part is 30. I just don't like 33%. 33% is just not good enough odds. If it was 50-50, I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I would at 50-50, but not at 33%.
For Eva, I like this for her because at this point she's in a really good spot, and this helps. I think this is good enough. We'll see. Hindsight's 20/20, but at this specific point for her, I like what she does here. And then the next day, she's going to immediately tell Joe and Shaheen and Kyle. So Shaheen and Joe and Kyle, they all trust her. Shaheen's like, I really trust Eva. I'm also terrified of her.
Yeah, and this is the part that I don't like. Now, it's she didn't know it, but it was the right move for her to like tell everyone about it, but she didn't know that she was being watched. In theory, this is the type of thing that you want to keep quiet, especially when you have a known public idol at this
Yes.
point in the game, and you have a number one ally who is still in the game. She has a lot going for her, and she's in a power position. Why put another target on your back? I do not like that she told people.
She's going for the loyalty game, and that's the kind of thing you have to do, and that's the problem with a loyalty game and honesty game.
The reason why I say that though is especially when you're really committed to the loyalty game and you're going to go to the end, probably with your number one ally, unless they get, booted out without your control. Let's say Austin and D. You want to have something in your back pocket to where it's that one thing that people don't know about. You have that one thing over your number one ally that they weren't able to have in the game. And this advantage could have been that for her.
Agreed.
I don't mind that she told people. I actually think it's good because one, now she can threaten to withhold her vote. Like not really. It's just like, hey, if I feel funny, I'm gonna leave. So it's an implied threat. Like if this is a 4-4 split, you better not make me feel like I'm not happy.
Because of the implication.
Because of the implication. And also it shows like I'm the one going out here and getting all of this hardware. I'm up against a lot of really big, strong dudes. And just visually, I'm not saying it should be this way, but visually, if you look at the alliance, Eva's kind of the odd one out at this point. And I don't mean for it to be that way, but having hardware and being open about it can be the differentiator if you're talking about what did you do in this game. Mm-hmm. So I like that she came out and told, and that's including the fact that Shaheen had kind of spotted her leaving camp.
So Kyle's going to tell Camilla immediately about the safety of that power.
As you do.
Kyle's thinking to start working on Joe and basically try and convince him that David is coming for Kyle and Shaheen. And then immediately David's going to show up and pitch getting rid of Kyle and Shaheen. Just perfect setup, perfect payoff. It's a trap.
Yeah, Cochran always said it's about out-timing people. Yep. So I think the fact that Kyle was able to come and calibrate Joe for that conversation. Joe seems like a really smart, thoughtful guy, but I also think that he's someone who can be calibrated, especially when you're not like eating and you don't have time to process. And David was the one acting paranoid. Kyle's like, okay, I know the optics. I can go and I can calibrate Joe for what is about to happen. Mm-hmm. And then it seems like almost the next minute, David was there to have that conversation. It's like, David, you have no idea. Like, he just set the trap.
And to make things worse, David is going to say Joe went back on his word in the last episode because they had originally said Camilla, and they didn't do it. And Joe's like, dude, we discussed this as a group. I did not go back on my word. David, tactical error. It's not so much what you say, it's how you say it.
Well, and this is kind of both.
Yep.
Because if you did decide, Chrissy was a unanimous vote.
Mm-hmm.
By very definition, unless David switched his vote to Chrissy last second in tribal council because he thought it might not be going that way, they agreed as a group that Chrissy was going home. If you're playing with people who are all about that honor and integrity, do you know what you don't do to them? Challenge the honor and integrity, especially I think if in Joe's case it really is there.
See Coach, for example, on this one. Coach is like the textbook example, but Joe's up there too.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're out of the family, you're out.
Yep. So Kyle and Joe are going to bond, and Kyle's going to open up to him, and basically Kyle just spent some time in jail for disorderly conduct charge.
Drinking as a minor, a couple of those things.
So he just spent like a month in jail while he was in college. And so basically some of the conflict in the previous episode was a little bit triggering for him. Assuming stuff happened in prison. I don't know. No clue. But yeah, this just is an emotional bond for the two of them, which is great. And it kind of opens up even more, and the two of them can talk about how they don't feel great about David at this point. So using an emotional connection to really bond with somebody and then use that as a launching point to make a strategy move. Great
in game. I really like Kyle, even though he's a lawyer. I really like Kyle. I think this is one of those things that could ruin a friendship post-game when you're watching it air, because Kyle was acting funny the day prior because he does have a secret alliance with Camilla. David is right about that, and he's trying to downplay his behavior, his sketchy behavior, And at least the way that we got it masked with the confessional is that he's going to use this emotional moment to mask that. That's great in the game. But this is something that really could hurt someone's feelings afterward if you find out that they manipulated you with this type of vulnerability.
I think for Kyle, it was genuinely both.
It might be both, but the optics were not the greatest here. So Kyle, big fan of the podcast. I still love you. I worry that this could hurt.
And sounds like future Kyle's problem.
That sounds like a millionaire Kyle's problem.
Yeah, millionaire Kyle's problem.
Hopefully, right?
Hey, look, if you make friends coming on to Survivor, that's great. And if you don't, well, yeah, whatever. There's other people you can make friends with.
There are more people.
I can buy friendship.
So Joe and Eva talk, and Joe's like, I don't feel great about David. What do you want to do? And Eva's like, I don't want to split the group up yet, because she feels great. Yeah, because nobody's gunning for her. She's going to have a great confessional later, basically, when she's got to make a decision between the two groups. She's like, I do feel like David and Mary are good with me, but they're not good with the rest of my alliance. It's like, there we go. That's the stuff right here. It was just a really good observation that I really enjoyed that one.
And a correct one by all we can tell.
Immunity challenge. So, yeah, this is one of those ones where you got to hold a bar down to keep a ball from falling out of the thing. Very much a David and Joe type challenge to win.
I called this one immediately.
Derek, you were not as swole as David and Joe, I hate to say.
True.
But you come up with a great idea of how to maybe try and beat them at this challenge.
Yeah, so the key is to get it down to, top 2, top 3. And this season, clearly it'd be a top 3, top 4 because, Kyle is also a beast. I think what you try to do is you try and like Christian Hubicki a little bit. You want to make them laugh. And so I came up with this idea like, hey, David, how about this? 2 Greek gods having at it just like in the old days, and just like try and get him to laugh, because I'm very clearly, the YouTube audience knows, but the Spotify audience may not. David has more mass in one bicep than I have in my entire body. I'm pretty sure the diameter of his arms is the same as my legs, and that's awesome for him. So like, you're Hercules, I'm Hermes, but just like, you are the god from which the marble is chiseled. Like, try and make them laugh, I think. And it might not play well, but if you really, really feel like that's your only option, try and take their strength by making them laugh. Cut Samson's hair.
Distract them a little bit.
Yeah.
I love this idea so much.
Use the Chewbacca defense.
Just start saying nonsense, make them laugh and lose focus. I love this idea. This is a phenomenal idea. For any of these focus challenges, if you don't feel like you can win this in a straight up fight, then fight a little dirty and start cracking jokes.
Pocket sand.
Pocket sand.
Pocket sand.
Verbal pocket sand is what this is. This challenge is great. It comes down to David versus Joe. It's just some awesome editing. Joe's barely hanging in there, and it just keeps creaking down one little by little. It felt like a Saw movie.
Just the click, click, click.
It felt like a Saw movie or like a spy movie where they have to defuse a bomb, where it's like counting down like seconds, or the gears are turning and you have seconds before you get decapitated in a Saw movie. And then all of a sudden David loses and Joe wins. And it's just like, oh, this is great editing.
That's some storybook stuff, yeah. Or I guess, honestly, that is made for cinema.
Yeah, that was a movie.
Like the ticking clock. Like, it was tick, tick. It was incredible. I came out of my seat. I was so excited.
Great job, production. That was some amazing editing. So Joe wins immunity. He gets to bring 3 people on reward. He brings Mitch first because Mitch has not been on one yet. He also brings Shaheen and Eva. And I gotta say, I really like these picks. Eva's whatever. Mitch and Shaheen are great. But the most important thing is he leaves David, Mary, Kyle, and Camilla back on the beach. And they ain't working together. And then there's poor Star. But I love that he leaves those 4 on the beach.
Yeah, originally I wasn't sure. I'm like, should he bring David and leave Eva on the beach? Leave your closest ally there, and also make sure that you have eyes on David if you feel like you need to keep eyes on him. But I think this works just as good as long as you have that trust in someone else to be able to watch after him and who isn't going to really conspire with him.
In hindsight, I think these picks make a lot of sense. But in the moment, this is one of the things where I stood up and I just pondered, what is going to happen, and does this clue us into where Joe's head is at? In the moment, I didn't know. Retrospectively, I think it does. I think there is a world where he does respect that David was the competitor he was, and he brings David with, and then maybe he brings Shaheen and Mitch, and leaves Eva behind, because we on the podcast are big fans of leaving your biggest ally back on the beach to do damage control, or at least to be able to siphon information back to you. That's not the game that Joe is playing. He just brings his 2 closest allies, I think, and then Mitch, a guy who hasn't eaten yet, which is also a little bit of jury management. Like, I'm just trying to be a straight up guy. It works. Depending on what his goal was, I think there were better options, but I'm going to go ahead and trust Joe, I guess, on this one. I'll defer, I guess. I don't know.
So David and Mary, they're nervous Shaheen might play an idol for Camilla if they go through this plan to take her out. So they decide to switch their votes to Mitch, just in case. I don't know. I feel like this is just like avoiding the problem. Take out Shaheen then, or Kyle. Take out Kyle if you can.
Yeah, one mystery idol shouldn't disqualify 3 people. Like, if you wanted to disqualify one person, sure.
Yep.
I can understand that. 3, no. You can't ruin your game, or at least, get it off the rails, because it's going to be hard to get it back on track.
So Star's going to pitch to David and Mary, hey guys, let's take out Shaheen, but they're not going to do it. They think he's got an idol, so the plan is to vote for Mitch for these 3, and just these 3.
This is fascinating, because at this point I was worried on behalf of David and Mary and Star. Star has been this way the whole season, though. I mean, either absent or making questionable strategic decisions. Are they caught in the middle? Because they are so committed to this strong person alliance. Like, this was the first time when Star comes up to David and Mary and says, like, I want Shaheen. And David and Mary say, like, well, we want to too, but we can't do that. That is the only time that David has, like, out of his mouth said something about the 6 strong people voting out one of them. Otherwise, he's been suggesting Camilla. He went along with Chrissy. And every move that led them up to that point, he's been chipping away at the margins. But once you start getting into those, like, secret duos, okay, now it's like, if Kyle's going to fight too hard for Camilla, you need to be willing to go for Kyle. You need to be willing to go for Shaheen. But he's so worried about going back on his word of the 6 that he won't do it. So he's too committed to his ideology, I think.
Mitch is going to pitch voting out David on reward, and Shaheen's really on board with this plan because he's been planting seeds for days now. So Eva kind of gets talked to by both sides, who to vote for. She's stuck in the middle, and David and Mary end up talking to her about voting on Shaheen, turning on Shaheen and Kyle possibly. And Eva's going to tell this to Kyle, and Kyle uses this opportunity to be like, you know what? I think I'm done with them. I think it's time for David to go. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, and it's really not, but he pretends it is. And it's like, can you blame me? I got to go for him. And Eva's like, no, friends, get along.
And that's all that really matters. You just need to have a reasoning. True or not true, you just need to have something where the perception of you going against an alliance that you had previously committed to and breaking that is okay. So as long as someone like Eva is okay with it, or is like good, like is convinced that's like, okay, valid, he wanted to come for, you or, someone that you're close with, I can live with that. That is all that matters.
It reminded me a lot of Tony and LJ. What Tony did to LJ. He got LJ to say, like, oh, should we take out Woo? Boom, bye, LJ. It's something like that. All you need, I'll give him a reason.
This was much more methodical and much more gentle than the Tony one, because Tony was like, I'm going to get LJ to say Woo, and then I'm going to get everyone to turn on LJ. And then he's just like, well, Woo's being weird. And LJ's like, well, do you want to take out Woo? You said it. You said it, not me. He books off into the jungle to blab to everybody.
There's more dexterity here.
Ever so slightly more dexterity than that. Kyle is the one with social dexterity here.
So really it comes down to Eva and Joe. What do they want to do? And Joe kind of defers to Eva on this one. We're going to go to tribal council, and it's going to be 6 votes for David, 3 votes for Mitch. Star joined with David and Mary. But David is gone. And it was pretty epic. This is a great tribal council. Was it the right move, though? I'm going to say no. David was at the bottom of my list of people who can win. So, like, the people who are at the bottom should not be targeting him, first of all. Second of all, if you're Eva and Joe, I think you should be looking elsewhere. Like, take out Kyle. I think Kyle's the right move here. I know he wasn't even really mentioned, but if I'm like putting it all together, because there's various factions here, I'm like, which factions should go after who? It should be Kyle, because if you look at it, Kyle and Camilla and Shaheen, that's a possible trio versus David and Mary. That is a duo. And Kyle, Camilla, and Shaheen are all way more dangerous than David and Mary. So I think Joe and Eva need to get their heads out of their asses a little bit and take out Kyle.
Joe and Eva are in an interesting spot that makes it really tough just because you need to make it to the end. And they're in a spot where they need to have their games be good enough to beat basically anyone in the end. So you just need to worry about getting there. Because if you turn on someone like Kyle right now, I think you're going to have a really hard time getting there. I thought this was the right move. I thought this was the right move because of one big thing, and that's the duo of David and Mary. I don't think that it should have been, like someone like Mitch. Yes, I had David in my can't win group. So, like, yes, everyone in theory could beat David if he's at the end with you. But the voting block of him and Mary moving forward could prevent you from getting to the end. So that's almost more important than whether or not you can beat him at the end. If you break up David and Mary, I think that is good enough for me, because now going forward, if you have who Star, Mary, and Mitch working together, no, like that's only 3 people. You don't really have to worry about, I don't really want to say the goats, because I think that Mitch is a little bit more than a goat, but in general, the people at the bottom can't overthrow the people at the top anymore.
I say that David is the wrong move, and I'll boil it down to this. I'm not going to lay out the calculus on the whiteboard. Just know that I struggled with this for a long time. The people at the top want to keep David for one primary reason. They know that he is willing to go to 6 with them. And they also know that he's not getting the votes at the end if they make it to the final 3 with him. The people at the bottom should understand that if they go to the end with David, that would mean there was an upset, and David is still unlikable. He lost power. They should want to go to the end with David as well. This leaves one person caught in the middle that should have probably gone home. It should have been Camilla. The only person that would have been bad for, based on my dank down, is Kyle. Because the people who are on the bottom, Mary, Star, they still need to get people out who can beat them. And that is Camilla, because she has a real game going for her. It weakens Kyle. And, I mean, you could say it firms up the people at the top, but they can still beat David. And by the way, I've changed my mind on David with the way he's been acting this episode. I gave him 1 episode grace period. If he doesn't go home tonight, I had seen enough to drop him. So he was probationary. He failed in his probation.
Okay. What did social media have to say?
Yeah, pretty overwhelmingly, social media said that the right person went home tonight, around, like 85%.
Okay. Well, they're wrong.
Classic social media.
I'm glad social media agrees with me. The last thing, I just need a rebuttal just because I'm the one on the outside here.
That's fine.
And the one to disagree with you guys. My one rebuttal is that, David isn't the only one that, this main group of people can beat. They can beat Star. They can beat Mary. I think that they can beat Mitch. So if you just swap out David for any of those other people as, people who you can beat at the end, I think that's perfectly fine. You don't need to, just because David is, second to last in my rankings, there's going to be a new second to last now. So I don't think that needs to have him be off limits when it comes to taking them out, especially when, again, a block of 2 people, a duo that votes together, is so powerful this late in the game.
I just think he's loyal, and he can't win.
Is he?
That's an ally.
Is he loyal?
He's not the one who was pitching. He pitched Mitch. He pitched Camilla. He wasn't
because
pitching Kyle
he felt like he had to. He was all on board with Camilla before. He was all
but
he pitched Camilla. Camilla's not in the group.
Yeah, Camilla's not in the core 6. Not in the 6 that was formed originally. By Kyle's design, by the way. Kyle and Camilla are purposely keeping Camilla on the outs here. So by very design, she's open season for someone like David. And that was a risk that I'm guessing Kyle and Camilla understood, or at least Kyle, because, it's not his neck on the line if David decides to go a little bit AWOL and take her out. So I see what you're saying, Josh. I think the people on the bottom want to keep around somebody who's beatable, and the people on the top want to keep around somebody who's loyal. And then you just hope that there's enough people who are willing to play more of the classic new era strategic level of Survivor when push comes to shove and there's nowhere left to hide.
I'm trying to just think of more than just one vote. I'm trying to think of, okay, what happens 2, 3, 4 votes from now when you have to be able to, get these people not to vote you out of this game? That matters as well.
Let's move on to best and worst player of the episode. I'll kick us off. I had Kyle. He just spread the seeds for taking out David really well in this episode. It was kind of his mastermind that ended up taking down David. I especially like the way he handled it with Eva. Like, I think I'm done. I think I'm done with David. I definitely wasn't done with him days ago. I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's take him out. So I'm going to give my best to Kyle.
I gave my best to Kyle for all the same reasons. Plus, I think coming out of this, he has the most strategic options by far.
I was really close to giving this to Shaheen for those same reasons. We had the whole planting seeds from Shaheen's point of view as well. Honestly,
honorable mention for sure.
Maybe even more than Kyle. But I do think that Kyle had also some good social moments, like his conversation with Joe. I think that really bonded the two of them together. So, and, I think that he benefits almost the most. I know Shaheen also benefits pretty greatly from David going home, but from Kyle's point of view, like David was losing trust in Kyle very quickly. So I think that he benefits from that too. So I agreed with you guys.
Worst player, Derek, who do you got?
I'm taking your guys' honorable mention, and I'm going with Shaheen.
Oh.
So this is a little bit out of left field, and it's forward thinking. The reason I'm going with Shaheen is yeah, he planted the seeds for David's demise, but unless you buy into Vula 2.0, Eva's protected with a public idol. Camilla now knows that she has a safety without power, so if push comes to shove, Eva will protect Joe. They're not going anywhere. Kyle has Camilla. The three people on the bottom are hungry. Who does that leave as the most vulnerable person on top, and it's not close? Shaheen. Is he nearly this vulnerable with David still around? Absolutely not. Shaheen, I think, needed David to stay more than almost anybody. So I have Shaheen as my worst player.
No.
Strong disagree.
Wrong.
Chime in the comments. I feel like Shaheen is now ride or die with the strong six, and he has nowhere else to hang his hat because Joe and Eva are his number one and number two or whatever, but they are number one with each other.
Yeah, but you can do this with four people. It's a Final Four fire making.
Yeah, who's the fourth?
It could be Shaheen easily. He's third. I would say no matter what.
No. Joe, Eva, Shaheen. Who's the fourth?
I don't know. Kyle.
Kyle's got Camilla. Why would he want to go to the end with Joe and Eva? He doesn't.
That does not make him worst player of the episode.
I think it does. He wanted David to go home, and he needed David the worst.
No. Look, it's very possible that we get a Final Four, like, I don't even remember the number it was, but when we had Dee and Austin their season, and it seemed like it was two duos that were in the Final Four. It's very possible that we have Joe and Eva and then Kyle and Camilla at the end. I don't think that's going to be the way that it is, though. I think that there's going to be other things like it, switched up here. I think that there's just too good of people to beat at the end, where you're going to get a straggler in there like a Star. You're going to get a straggler in there like a Mary. So, and I have a hard time thinking that he doesn't have a path with some sort of combination there where a Joe goes home or a Camilla goes home or Kyle. So, again, strong disagree.
I mean, I'm ready for your alternatives,
Yep.
both of you.
Oh, my alternative is Mary, because now she can't win. I think that, she needed to go up against David and Star in the end. I think that she can't win the game now. I think Mitch beats her at the end. This was her one way to try to get into this alliance. And now that point of hers, fast forward to Final Tribal Council, almost gets invalidated because her closest ally, who she was really fighting for and was trying to make these strategic moves with, is now out, and she was on the wrong side of the vote in that process. So now I think Mary solidly can't win.
I agree completely with Josh. I also Mary. I don't think she can win anymore. And again, it wasn't necessarily like her thought process that was bad. Like, yeah, she was right. Kyle and Camilla and Shaheen are working together. So take one of them out instead of going for Mitch. Try and make that happen. Her presentation was wrong. And then she was also way too close to David. They were an obvious duo, and they didn't have the hardware that like Joe and Eva have. Take a leaf out of Kyle and Camilla's book and play it cool. They were way too close.
In her
So I
defense,
Mary.
with that, I actually don't mind that she really went for that because I think that was basically her only move. I think she was playing from the outside, and this was her way in, and she really committed to it. And it was boom or bust. Either it's gonna work out amazing and it's gonna catapult you to the final, or you're gonna be in a can't win category. And
Well,
that's
commit
the
to
way
more than just David then, Don't make it just a duo, make it a whole group thing. Let's get into who's going next. Josh, kick us off. Who's next?
So I think that everyone else can see the same thing that I mentioned, that Star and Mary are on the outside. I think that Mitch does have a chance to still win this game just because it seems like he's socially likable. And we're getting some proof of that in the edit as well. So I think that people are going to be able to see that, and we're going to get one more vote. We're going to get one more vote for someone like Mitch before big names start to fall. So I'm going Mitch here.
We're presented with we're going to take out Joe in this episode. So that means we're not taking out Joe. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to talk about that, but then Joe or Eva, one of those two will win immunity. They're both safe. Let's be honest. So they're going to change plans, and I do think what is going to happen is the bottom feeder is going to rise here. Camilla's going to realize she's got to do something to really start standing out. I think you're kind of right. I think what you said is going to come to pass, but that doesn't mean he is bad. I think things are going to go break a bad way for Shaheen. So my prediction is Shaheen goes home next, but I don't think what he did in this episode was bad.
Except if David was still here, it wouldn't happen to him. I have Shaheen going next, and this is me calling my shot. If Shaheen does go next, and by the way, if he wins immunity, obviously all bets are off. But if he does not win immunity and he is the target and goes home, that will validate for me everything that I feel like I've tried to elucidate for him being the worst player.
If that happens, you get to say I told you so.
I get that, and when it doesn't happen, then the consensus I suppose will stand. But there's always that ability for you guys to retrospectively acknowledge hey, yeah, he incepted everybody to get rid of David, and maybe it wasn't to his advantage to do that, at least not this early. So I think it's going to be Shaheen, but either way, Mitch is my backup. I'm glad that I used him in the survivor pool tonight. So,
all right, let's get into rank downs, dank downs, jank downs, and lank downs. Josh, tell us what happened last week.
Yeah, last week our listeners sent in their averages, and we have from the top Joe, Kyle, Eva, Camilla, Shaheen, Mitch, David, Mary, and Star. So honestly, not a whole lot of movement from the listener's point of view, but a little bit here and there. I think Kyle got unseated as their number one choice. And then actually all four of us, the three of us and the listeners all had Joe in the number one spot. So unanimous that way.
Well, I'll kick us off, and Joe's not in my number one spot anymore. I think Joe and Eva are going to run into a little bit more trouble now because they can't say, we played loyal and integrity the whole time.
Yes, they can.
They turned on David.
David said that they didn't have honesty and integrity. David said that Joe went back on his word.
Brother. They can't play that card anymore, and any juror who buys that crap is dumb. So I think they lose a little bit of ground here. I think they could still win, no problem, but I do think Kyle moves up past them. I think Kyle can own his game better than Joe, and Eva will be able to. So I have Kyle, Joe, Shaheen, Eva, Mitch. Camilla drops a spot, and I think this can change. It's just where we're at right now. Camilla needs to show something. She's playing a great game. Nobody is seeing that yet. She has to show it at some point, and I think she will, but as of right now, she's the top of my bottom three along with Mary and Star. But again, I think that'll change. I'm just working with what I got here. So my two cannot win are Mary and Star, with Mary winning in a final two.
Yeah, I'll start at the top, and I've got more movement in mind this week, but my number one is not changing. I've had Joe. I'm keeping it at Joe. It's nice to know the listeners finally joined me. I'm bumping Eva up. I think their power duo, everyone is coming to them with information. Everybody wants to work with them. If they make it to the end as a power duo like this, I feel like they've almost earned it on principle. And the fact that they're both good people really, really helps. My number three spot is then Kyle. And then I have Shaheen, Mitch, Camilla, Mary, and Star. I flip-flopped Mitch and Camilla based on people talking about Mitch as a threat again this week. So as a viewer, I like Camilla's game better, but I'm just trying to put myself in the eyes of the jury and the players. So that's why I'm moving Mitch up, not because I like Camilla's game any less. And to your point, Ryan, if I'm organizing this based on how much I like the game so far, I put Camilla at 4th above Shaheen.
Right.
But I just don't think that's visible yet, so I'm not going to reflect that in my rankings. So I have Mary winning in a final 2 now because Star is clearly broken away from that original Loggy with some force.
Yeah, for mine, not a whole lot of movement. My top 6 actually stayed exactly the same. So I have Joe, Eva, Kyle, Camilla, Shaheen, Mitch, Mary, Star. So actually, my list did not change at all. Just take David out, and there's the remainder. So like I mentioned before, Mary and Star can't win this game. I will say Kyle, Eva, and Joe are neck and neck at the top. Those 3 are a tier of their own, and it is a 1A, 1B, 1C.
I'm adding Star to my list of forks.
Oh,
so now it's Mary and Star.
She wasn't already?
Nope, not yet.
All right, so Mary and Star have been forked.
Yes. Oh boy. It's not. They have forks stuck in them.
All right, last thing we got to do is check in with our survivor pool. Josh, where are we at?
Graveyard.
First of all, last week's picks. Ryan, as a reminder, picked Star. Derek picked Mitch. Both of you guys had already picked David, so good on you guys. Now for the listeners. We lost someone this week. We lost Connor. So rest in peace, Connor. Thank you for playing.
To the graveyard with you. Thanks for playing. Make sure you play again next year. Hope you had fun.
Absolutely, and we still
and
you
beat Josh. You beat Josh.
It wasn't even close either. Still quite a few listeners out there. Now, I've been kind of keeping an eye on it, and there's a lot of listeners who are either out or have like one person remaining. So we are going to get some more people in the graveyard very soon.
Love it. More tombstones, baby.
Absolutely. Now, on to you guys. So, Ryan, you have 2 people left. You have Joe and Mary, whereas Derek has 3 people left, Joe, Shaheen, and Kyle.
You're first, babe.
To me, perhaps the safest person this week, famous last words. Well, I mean, it would be Eva, but I'm going to go with Kyle because whatever happens this week, either the bottom feeders rise up and Camilla finally gets to flex that she's been working with Kyle, or the top stays strong and Kyle is safe. I'm picking Kyle.
I'm going to go with Joe because they said he might be in trouble next time on Survivor, so therefore I pick him. Because who's my other person? Mary?
Mary.
Neither of them have advantages, but Joe could easily get one played on him. I don't think Mary can, so I'm going to go with Joe. Okay. That's another episode wrapped up in the books. Very good one.
So we did have a question on Spotify from Dawson who asked, and this was a comment from last week's episode. So in honor of last week's episode, what is the largest or scariest animal you could take in a fight individually? And what about the 3 of you together? Which I like that angle.
Individually, at least a coyote. I could absolutely take a coyote. More than that, I don't know. A large dog, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the word like scary out because to me like a scary animal would be like a brown recluse spider, and like that's not much of a fight if I know like if it's a gladiator ring. I'm gonna go bold here. I'm gonna say a kangaroo, and that's not without taking severe damage. They have crazy claws, but as humans we know like that's a head, that's a neck. If you can get the kangaroo in a headlock, I think you might be able to take it down. I think so. I'll go bold and I'll say kangaroo.
Oh, I also think I could out wrestle an alligator. I think I could. Not a huge one, but I think I could. People do alligator wrestling. I've always wanted to do that. I don't think I ever would, but I've always wanted to because I think I could do it.
Maybe you could wrestle it, but you can't kill it.
No. Dude, is it the rule kill it or win in a fight?
I guess it just says you could
subdue.
You could take in a fight. So
in a wrestling match, I think I could take an alligator.
I strongly disagree with. I don't think you could do that, and I do not think Derek could take a kangaroo.
Hey, look, man, you may be right.
There's only one way to find out.
There's only one way to find out.
Look, Josh, who can you take?
I am realistic about my capabilities in fights.
Chihuahua.
I'm saying like a goose. One, because I've always wanted to, because I hate geese. I walking around and there's just geese everywhere. I've wanted to just actually fight one and just, because I feel like it'd be really satisfying.
I've just always wanted to do it.
But also, I'm realistic that like if animals are fully intent on being like, okay, we're going here. We are doing
Right.
this. We are fighting. No, that kangaroo would destroy you, Derek.
But I'm also
a
in very much
coyote-
like okay, we're fighting.
Yeah, something like a coyote. It's got teeth. Like, come on.
So what? I could kick a coyote's ass.
I have teeth too.
I'm just saying, I feel like I'm the only realistic one here.
I'm supremely confident I could take a coyote. The other
And
ones
that's
I'm
what
not
will
super
get you
confident
killed is
about.
your
Okay,
confidence.
maybe you're right. As a group, you know, if in a normal situation, we could probably scare off a black bear. But if a black bear was intent on killing us,
Absolutely not.
absolutely not. You know, in this simulation we're running here,
In a gladiator arena.
the three of us could take a big dog.
And it depends on the big dog. Like a Great Dane, like those things are not. I mean, they can be mean, but they're not very coordinated.
Yeah.
I'm actually not convinced that the three of us could take a boxer or a German Shepherd. I'm not sure.
I think if you have three, now we are going to take some serious injuries.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, it
we
is
might
gonna
bleed
be
out
brutal.
afterwards.
I say that we can take a medium-sized male deer, the three of us together.
Oh.
One of us will die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
I think the three of us could maybe take a wolf, but I think we might bleed to death from claw marks later.
Yeah,
but I
does it-
think
does
we
it
could kill the wolf.
You know, if all four participants, so all three of us and the wolf, let's just say, all die, do we still win?
Everyone gets a point, but the team that died second gets 2 points.
All right, all right.
We'll go with the gray rules. It's about the wolves we made along the way.
Stupid.
I was going to say like a wild hog or something.
Dude, they'll mess you up. I
More
don't
than
know.
a wolf?
Dude, they can gore you, man. I don't want to mess with any
Have
tusks.
you seen the wolf's teeth?
Yes, I would rather take on teeth than tusks.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not picking any of these kinds of animals. I picked an animal with 2 legs very intentionally for myself. We all agree that a moose is way out of the question.
Oh, no,
Oh,
a moose
absolutely.
would murder us. It wouldn't even be close.
Most dangerous animal in North America if there's a baby around.
Yep. Okay. That was a great question. I
Great,
love the
thank
question.
you.
We spent
Yes.
way too much time on that, but I loved it, and we lost all of our listeners.
You know, that's
No,
why
I-
it's good for the end of the episode. You know, for the people who want us to hear us talk about chili, or talk about, you know, what animals we can fight. So
It's a little treat for the people who made it to the end.
yeah, whatever new conversation topic you want to hear, let us know in the comments.
All right. Social media.
Yeah, follow us on social media at Castaway Pod, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok is Castaway Consultants. Like I said, reply, DM, like literally anything on any of that stuff, and we'll answer your questions. If it's very specific to the episode, like gameplay wise, we'll answer it as it comes up, just kind of organically throughout the podcast. And if it has nothing to do with Survivor, that's okay too. As you can tell, we'll answer it on the podcast too.
And then on Spotify or from anywhere, make sure that if you're still in the pool, even if you've only got one person left, pick them. You could still win. And then otherwise, on Spotify this week, I'm just going to shout out the link down. I love the conversation that people bring in just about their feelings on the episode. Keep doing that. But if my one call to action is to come back with a link down this week. So that's all I got.
All right. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.